Today is Thanksgiving, and in my home, growing up, that was all about family. Generations getting together from all over, and just the memories are amazing. So, today for Book Bites, I bring you a special book that is all about those memories with family. See you in Book Bites. Hi, this is Gretchen Shepherd. Welcome to day 23 of NaPodPoMo. If you are in the United States, happy Thanksgiving. And this, as I said in the intro, is a book all about family. It's an interesting book. It's been around. It's a Newbery Honor book. I think it came out in 1975. It's a short chapter book. But it is one that is so rich in family that I just had to share it on this day when family is all about it for me. Growing up, I had great aunts and great uncles around our table at the holidays and my grandparents, and it was a wonderful celebration of generations, and I have super cherished memories about it. In this book, there's some different memories happening. And instead of just a great aunt, it's a great great aunt. So, welcome to The 100 Penny Box by Sharon Bell Mathis. Michael sat down on the bed that used to be his and watched his great great aunt, Aunt Do, rockin' in the rocking chair. He wanted to play with the 100 penny box, especially since it was raining outside. But Aunt Do was singing that long song again. Sometimes when she sang it, she would forget who he was for a whole day. Then she would call him John. John was his father's name. Then his mother would say, "He's Mike, Aunt Do. His name is Michael. John's name is John. His name is Michael." But if his father was home, Aunt Do would just say, "Where's my boy?" Then it was hard to tell whether she meant him or his father, and he would have to wait until she said something more before he knew which one she meant. Aunt Do didn't call his mother any name at all. Michael had heard his father and mother talking in bed late one night. It was soon after they had come back from going to Atlanta to bring back Aunt Do. "She won't even look at me. Won't call my name nothin'," his mother had said, and Michael could tell she'd been crying. "She doesn't like me. I know it. I can tell. I do everything I can to make her comfortable." His mother was crying hard. "I rode halfway across this city, all the way to Mama D's, to get some homemade ice cream, some decent ice cream. Mama D said, 'Ice cream be melted 'fore you get home.' So I took a cab back and made her lunch and gave her the ice cream. I sat down at the table to talk to her, say something, have my coffee. I wanted to talk to her. But she just sat there and ate that ice cream and looked straight ahead at the wall and never said nothing to me. She talks to Mike, and if I come around, she even stops talking sometimes." His mother didn't say anything for a while, and then he heard her say, "I care about her, but she's making me miserable in my own house." Michael heard his father say the same thing he'd always said about Aunt Do. "She's a 100-year-old lady, baby." Sometimes his father would add, "And I didn't have nobody. She was there. Look here. After Big John and Junie drowned, she gave me a home. I didn't have one. I didn't have nothing. No mother, no father, nobody. Nobody but her. I've loved her all my life, like I love you. And that tough, beautiful boy we made, standing right outside the door and listening for all he's worth. And he's supposed to be in his room asleep. Michael remembered he had run back to his room and got back into bed and gotten up again and tiptoed over to the bedroom door to close it a little and shut off some of the light shining from the bathroom into Aunt Due's face. When he looked at Aunt Due, and he wished she'd wake up and talk to him like she did when she felt like talking, and telling him all kinds of stories about people. "Hold tight, Ruth," he heard his father say that night. "She knows we want her. She knows it. And baby, sweet woman, you're doing fine. Everything you doing is right." Then Michael could hear the covers moving where his mother and father were, and he knew his father was putting his arms around his mother because sometimes he saw them still asleep in the morning, and that's the way they looked. But he was tired of remembering now, and he was tired of Aunt Due singing and singing and singing. "Aunt Due," Michael whispered close to his great-aunt's wrinkled face, "can we play with the 100-penny box?" "Precious Lord." "Aunt Due, let's count the pennies out." "Take my hand." "Aunt Due." "Lead me on." Michael thought for a moment. He knew the large scratched wooden box was down beside the dresser, on the floor where he could easily get it. Except it was no fun to count the pennies alone. It was better when Aunt Due whacked him a little and said, "Stop right there, boy. You know what that penny means?" And he'd say, "You tell me." And she would tell him. But when she started singing, it was hard to stop her. At least when she was dancing, what she called moving to the music, she'd get tired for a while. Then she would tell him about the pennies and help count them too. Michael cupped his large hands, everybody talked about how large his hands were for his age, around his great-aunt's ear. "Aunt Due," he said loudly. Aunt Due stopped rocking hard and turned and looked at him. But he didn't say anything, and she didn't say anything. Aunt Due turned her head and began to sing again, exactly where she left off. "Let me stand." Michael moved away from the rocking chair and sat back down on the bed. Then he got up and went to the dresser. He reached down and picked up the heavy, scratched-up 100-penny box from the floor, walked to the bedroom door, and stood there for a moment before he went out. There was no way to stop Aunt Due once she started singing that long, long song. Michael walked down the hall and held the huge box against his stomach. He could still hear Aunt Due's high voice. "I am weak. I am worn." "What's wrong?" his mother asked when he walked into the kitchen, and sat down on the chair and stared at the floor. He didn't want to answer. "Oh," his mother said, and she reached for the 100-penny box in his arm. "Give me that thing," she said. "That goes today. Soon as Aunt Due's asleep, that goes in the furnace." Michael almost jumped out of the chair. He wouldn't let go of the big, heavy box. He could hear his great-great-aunt's voice. She was singing louder. "Lead me through the night, precious Lord. Take my hand." "You can't take the 100-penny box," Michael cried. "I'll tell Daddy if you take it and burn it up in the furnace like you burned up all the rest of Aunt Due's stuff." Then Michael thought of all the things he and Aunt Due had hidden in his closet and almost told his mother. His mother walked closer to him and stood there, but he wasn't afraid. Nobody was going to take Aunt Due's 100-penny box. Nobody, nobody, nobody. "Aunt Due's like a child," his mother said quietly. She's like you. Thinks she needs a whole lot of stuff she really doesn't. I'm not taking her pennies. You know I wouldn't take her pennies. I'm just getting rid of that big, old, ugly wooden box always underfoot. Michael stood up. No, he said. Mac, did you say no to me? His mother asked. She put her hands on her hips. Michael tried to think fast. Aunt Dew won't go to sleep if she doesn't see her box in the corner. Can I take it back and then you can let her see it? And when she goes to sleep, you can take it. Go put it back in her room then, his mother said. I'll get it later. Oh, okay, Michael said, and held the heavy box tighter and walked slowly back down the hall to the small bedroom that used to be his. He opened the door and went in, put the 100-penny box down on the floor and sat down on it, staring at his aunt. She wasn't singing, just sitting. John boy, she said. Yes, Aunt Dew, Michael answered, and he didn't care this time that she was calling him John again. He was trying to think. Put my music on. The music wasn't going to help him think because the first thing she was going to do was make him move too. But Michael got up off the 100-penny box and reached under the bed and pulled out his blue record player that he'd got for his birthday. He had already plugged it in the wall when he heard her say, Get mine, my old Victrola, the one your father gave me. Mama threw it out, Michael said, and he knew he had told her 100 times already. It was broken. Aunt Dew squeezed her lips real tight together. Your mama gonna throw me out soon, she said. Michael stood still and stared at his great-great-aunt. Mama can't throw people out, he said. Put my music on, boy, Aunt Dew said again, and be quick about it. Okay, Michael said, and turned the record player on and got the record. Aunt Dew's favorite, and that they had saved and hidden in the bottom drawer. The dusty chipped record was of the lady singing that long, long song, Precious Lord, Take My Hand. Michael turned it down low. Aunt Dew started humming, and Michael sat down on the bed and tried to think about what to do with the 100-penny box. Aunt Dew got up from her rocking chair and stood up. She kept her arms down by her sides and made her thin hands into fists and clenched her lips tight and moved real slow in one spot. Her small shoulders just went up and down and up and down. Get up, John boy, she said, and move with me. Move with Do-Bet Thomas. I don't feel like dancing, Michael said, and kept sitting on the bed. But he watched his great-great-aunt move both her thin arms to one side and then to the other and move her hands about and hold her dress. Then she stopped and started all of a sudden again, just swinging her arms and moving her shoulders up and down and singing some more. Every time the record ended, he'd start it again. When he was playing it for the 3rd time, he said, Aunt Dew, where will you put your 100 pennies if you lose your 100-penny box? When I lose my 100-penny box, I lose me, she said, and kept moving herself from side to side and humming. Maybe you need something better than an old cracked-up wacky-dacky box with the top broken. It's my old cracked-up wacky-dacky box with the top broken, Aunt Dew said, and Michael saw her move her shoulders real high this time. Them's my years in that box, she said. That's me in that box. Can I hide the 100-penny box, Aunt Dew? Michael asked, hoping she would say yes and not ask him why. He'd hide it in with the other stuff like she asked him to, and even told him where to hide it most of the time. No, don't hide my 100-penny box, Aunt Dew said out loud. Leave my 100-penny box right alone. Anybody takes my 100-penny box, takes me. Just in case, Michael said impatiently, and wished his great-great-aunt would sit back down in her chair so he could talk to her. Just in case Mama puts it in the furnace when you go to sleep, like she puts all your stuff in the furnace in the basement. What's your mama's name? Oh, no, Michael said. You keep on forgetting Mama's name. That was the only thing bad about being 100 years old like Aunt Do. You kept on forgetting things that were important. Hush, John boy, Aunt Do said, and stopped dancing and humming and sat back down with the chair and put the quilt back over her legs. You keep on forgetting. I don't. You do. You keep on forgetting. Do I forget to play with you when you worry me to death to play? Michael didn't answer. Do I forget to play when you want? No. Okay, what's your mama's name and who is that in my kitchen? Mama's name is Ruth, but this isn't your house. Your house is in Atlanta. We went to get you and now you live with us. Ruth. Michael saw Aunt Do staring at him again. Whenever she stared at him like that, he never knew what she'd say next. Sometimes it was nothing to do with what they had been talking about. You John's baby, she said, still staring at him. Look like John just spit you out. That's my father. My great nephew, Aunt Do said. Only one ever care about me. And I think I'll stop there with the 100-penny box. It is a delightful little book. I made it through about halfway with just that book bite. It's a short story, but it's a wonderful book with family. Aunt Do is a character. And how does Michael manage to save the 100-penny box? Or does he? So he can save his Aunt Do. Thanks for joining me today for this edition of Book Bites with the Booklady on this special day of Thanksgiving. And until next time, keep looking for the beauty hidden in plain sight. It's all around you. But the first place you'll find it is when you go look in the mirror. And I'll see you at the next episode.